and 31 degrees.
ON Radio.
Welcome to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.
Why does South America and Brazil in particular have so many UFO occurrences? Are they different from UFO incidents elsewhere? Why don't they get more attention?
Hello and welcome to the 830th edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno. I'm Ben, and those high-flying questions came from my co-host and partner in the paranormal adventures, and dad as well, Paul. Today we present a new guest on an important southern subject, and we welcome your calls today. The number is 401-766-1240. That's from anywhere. And you can email Paul at behindtheparanormal.com or contact us via Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram.
Coming to us via Skype today is THIAGO LUIZ TICCHETTI, whose father was a pilot in the Brazilian Air Force. THIAGO has been researching the UFO phenomenon for more than 22 years. He is co-editor and columnist for Revista UFO Brasil and columnist for UFO Truth magazine. He has published dozens of articles for Revista UFO and other publications. He is the author of 11 books and has just published his first one in English from Flying Disc Press in the UK, UFO Contacts in Brazil. THIAGO is president of the Brazilian Commission of Ufologists. He is the Mutual UFO Network's Assistant National Director for Brazil, a MUFON field investigator, and member of the MUFON STAR team. He lives in Brasilia, the nation's capital. I have to mention that our guest last week, THIAGO, Murray Silva, is he known to you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess his father-in-law was a general in the Brazilian Air Force and probably commanded your father, so...
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a small world.
Indeed it is.
Anyway.
So, THIAGO LUIZ TICCHETTI, welcome to Behind the Paranormal.
Thank you both, and thank you the audience. It's very pleasure to be here.
Hey, well, it's great to have you with us. So, let's start off with some seemingly simple questions. So, when it comes to UFOs, how active is Brazil compared to other parts of the world, and why do you think that is?
Well, I think that Brazil is a hot spot of UFOs. Here in Brazil, we have all kinds of types of UFO sightings. We have abductions, we have UFO crashes, we have simple sightings, and the questions to why that happened, I don't know. Brazil is a very large country, the size of a continent. You know, we are perhaps 80% of the South American continent. And Brazil has a lot of resources, like natural resources, like animal resources. We have many types of environment in a single country. We have a desert here, a savanna in Brazil. We have a jungle, we have a rainforest, and we have snow in Brazil as well. Not everybody knows that, but in some cities in Brazil, we have snow.
Well, I was going to say that today's forecast here for freezing rain probably will not be much of a bother to you.
No.
No. Well, I live in the center of Brazil. It's very hot. Now we are in a rain season. It's raining every day from...
Oh, yes.
For 3 or 4 months, it's raining every day. And the rest of the year is a dry weather. Mm-hmm. So I think because the size of Brazil and the type of the country, the kind of the country with so many resources, I think Brazil is a hotspot of UFO.
Well, we here last evening, the History Channel broadcast a new edition of Ancient Aliens, something I don't customarily watch. Ben's mom is a big fan of it, so
which is surprising.
Yeah, it is. It's rather disconcerting to me. Almost 40 years of marriage, and she's been keeps my feet on the ground with this stuff.
I suppose you rubbed off on her a little bit.
Well, that does tend to happen. But it had to do with Chile. And it said that Chile has the most UFO sightings of any country in the world, and it mentioned what you just mentioned, THIAGO, which is the various sorts of terrain, the climate, resources, etc. And I don't. Before we get on with our regular questions, I thought I would watch that last night and ask you what your opinion is of that. I get, well, of course, Chile is on the other side of the continent from Brazil. But what say you on that? Is it who's out in front here, Brazil or Chile?
Yeah, Chile has a lot of sightings. It's true. I have important sightings there in Chile, but Chile is much smaller. It's smaller than Brazil, much bigger than Chile. And I don't think they say that on average of the size of the country and the number of the sightings. I don't know. If we do this math, maybe Chile has more sighting per person than Brazil, because the sighting and the population, the size of the population. But well, many cases that happen in Chile happen in Brazil. When we had in 1992 a great UFO wave in Brazil, we had 2 or 3 months later a great UFO wave in Chile. So perhaps they come here and then they go to Chile, to Uruguay, Argentina, and so, because Brazil, as I said, is very big. It's very big.
Well, they probably don't pay attention to national borders. Ben, did you have a question before we get on with some of these others?
I do, and it's Thiago, you made a really interesting point, which is something I've never really considered before, and the natural resources. Brazil has a very, very wide and diverse amount of resources. Have you seen in your research any sort of interest from, extraterrestrials or UFOs or what have you in natural resources themselves?
Yeah, in Brazil we have a lot of cases that the UFOs and the aliens beings are taking samples of our soil and water, and but curiosity, we don't have any case of cattle mutilation here in Brazil.
That's interesting.
Brazil.
And there is a large cattle industry.
Yeah, we had some kinds of chupacabras. We had in the early of 2000, but we never had this cattle mutilation. And we have a lot of cases where the aliens are seen picking soils in our terrain or water. And we have very, very great folklore here in Brazil that always is linked with strange beings made of light or rising from the waters of our rivers and lagoons. So if we move it from the folklore to the UFO research, we can do this connection. In my opinion, of course, all the folklore is the basis of the folklore is something that happened, something real, something that an unscientific person saw it and create a folklore of it.
Okay.
And this, all the Brazilian folklore is linked with in UFO sightings, in UFO phenomena.
Okay.
So yeah, we do have many cases where the aliens are interested in our soil and our researches like water.
We have several questions from a very faithful listener of ours up northwest of you in Bogota, and he has sent several questions. Ben, you should have talked to your cousin-in-law and brushed up on your Portuguese.
Well, you see, I know. Well, it's actually kind of funny, Thiago. There's actually a very large Portuguese and Brazilian population where I'm currently living, and I've worked with plenty of people from Brazil. So it's interesting to it's such an interesting place to learn about in the culture and the folklore. It's fascinating to me. Anyway, so we have questions from our faithful listener Peter, and he asks a couple of them. So we'll start with the first one. Has any new interesting information surfaced regarding the two most spectacular Brazilian UFO cases, the Colares and the Varinga cases.
Yeah, the Colares and Varginha case.
Varginha. There we go.
Yeah.
See?
Told you should have brushed up.
And
I know.
age. Well, you don't have an age like we have in Portuguese. It's Varginha. Well, Colares happened in 1977 in the north of Brazil, the city of Colares, where people were attacked by UFOs, by ray of light, shooted by UFOs. Officially, one person died because of anemia after being hit by this beam of light. And in Virginia was a UFO crash, a UFO that crashed in city of Virginia in a Minas Gerais state, in a close middle of Brazil. And but we have news in Colares. We don't have much news. We still looking for, and still waiting for, the Brazilian government release many documents that we know that they have. For example, we know that they have more than 25 hours of 8mm film made by officials, the militaries from Air Force, Brazilian Air Force, that was sent there to Colares and other cities to investigate those attacks. And they shoot more than 25 hours of films that we never saw it. We never watched it. But we know that it exists because Captain Holanda, that was the leader of this team, he told to A.J. Vaerd and Marco Antonio Petit in 1997, when he exposed all this case to the world, and they told that they had this film. Well, we still waiting for this. We push it, we press it, the Brazilian government and the Air Force, the Brazilian Air Force, to release this document and these films and reports and photos. We have more than 200 photos of UFOs. In my book, I have many of these photos, official photos, but I'm still looking for more photos because we think that there's more than 500 photos of UFOs. Many of these photos is very, very clear UFO in the sky, very clear.
Now, Thiago, may I? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
The one of the illustrations you sent, which is on our talking points page, and Ben's going to try to bring it up. Is that the case? Because there's a beam of light coming out of a UFO and hitting someone. Is that the case you're talking about now?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's an example of what happened. So we're still looking for this release of documents and films. Well, about Virginia is we have news every month because this case happened in 1996. It's still fresh, okay? Mm-hmm. Just for you have an idea, Roswell happened in 1947, and only in the 70s that the case became known by everybody. And Virginia happened in 1996 in May 25. And then the next day, ufologists was already in a city researching the case. So we had the opportunity to talk with witnesses that are still alive, and opposite of Roswell. Many of first eyewitnesses in Roswell already passed away. So in Virginia, we still have witnesses alive, many of them afraid to tell what they saw because they think that someone gonna, warn him, make something bad to them.
Yes.
And the last thing about Virginia was we got new testimonies of militaries that participate of the captures of the alien beings. Well, this military is not willing to say what they saw. They agreed to record their testimony, his testimony, but they still on duty, so he's not allow us to tell his name and his rank or show his face. So Virginia is in continual research. Virginia and I think in 2020 we have a very good news about Virginia.
Okay. For those watching the video feed of this show, we have up on the screen now, Ben has just shown the illustration that we were discussing. There it is again, along with the cover of the latest book by THIAGO, UFO Contacts in Brazil, his first book in English, published by Flying Disc Press. And the publisher, Philip Mantle, good friend of ours, will be on the show in 2 weeks. He's a UFO experiencer and expert in his own right. So, Thiago, we have another question from Peter in Bogota, and Ben, if you would be so kind.
Okie dokie. So Peter writes to us. Also, any new information about the Westendorf Pyramid UFO encounter?
Yeah, Westendorf was an amazing case. Is in my book as well. Westendorf was a pilot. He was flying over the Duck Lagoon, Lagoa dos Patos in Portuguese, and he saw a huge UFO, a triangle UFO, much bigger than his Cessna airplane. And from the top, well, he circulated this UFO to see the size and the type of the airplane that he was seeing. And suddenly, during his sighting, he saw 3 UFOs coming out from the top of the UFO. 3 small flying discs, not small, I mean the size of his plane, but the UFO, the mothership was so big. Then these 3 flying discs, it's like classic flying disc, seems small, but the size of his airplane. And he saw these 3 flying discs coming out from the top of the UFO and then speed away and disappear. Well, this case was very investigated in 1996, 1997. But we trying to get in touch with the Brazilian Air Force Tower and the Brazilian Air Force Base to check if they have some kind of, airplane or balloon or something in that area. And back at the time, they said that there was no another airplane, instead his Cessna, of Westendorf Cessna. And we concluded that what Westendorf saw was truly a UFO from another planet. Is a foreign, is not a human airplane. But there's no news about that. Westendorf never changed his report. If you met him, you would heard from him the same report. He never changed a word of that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And we have a third and final question from Peter, if you would, Ben.
Indeed. So, lastly, since the Corrales and Virginia cases, which were over 40 and 20 years ago, have any interesting new cases appeared? If so, share them, please.
Well, we have a lot of cases in Brazil every day. Of course, that many of them is not like Virginia or not like Corrales, because they was a huge cases. But we had in 1996, in 2001, we had a UFO crash in Brazil as well. After Virginia, we had in Feira de Santana, is a city of Bahia state. We had a UFO crash that was reported by one of the soldiers that participated of the rescue. Of course, this story is in my book as well. Recently, we had in 2000 2012 and 2013, we have crop cycles in Brazil as well, researched by A.J. Jevar. We have in the south of Brazil, in Paraná State and Santa Catarina State. We had for the first time, and then 2 years in a row, we have these crop cycles in Brazil. And I'm particularly I'm researching, investigating, still in the beginning of a sighting here in Brasilia, where 4 people of the same city, they saw a UFO in a highway here in Brasilia, and this car was stopped by UFO, and the UFO stopped in front of their car, and probably we had an abduction of these 4 people of the same family, but it's still in the beginning of the investigation.
Okay. All right. Now, when it comes to the UFO crashes, have you any information on bodies being recovered or remnants of the craft, etc., and who has that?
Yeah. Well, crash in Brazil, we had some case of UFO crashes. The Virginia was the main of these cases, and we had the Ubatuba explosion in 1957. A UFO exploded over the beach of Ubatuba, the city of Ubatuba in a beach, and many of these pieces fall in a beach in the sand. And today we have one of the sample. We have one of the sample with Jacques Vallée. He has one of the sample, and Andrea Simongini from Argentina. They have the UFO Museum in Victoria, in Argentina. They have another piece of this UFO explosion. Well, they sent to analyze the sample, and they discovered that the mineral composition of the sample is unique. There's no way to find it in nature, and there's no way to reproduce with our technology nowadays. And that happened in 1957. But there's no recover of the bodies in Ubatuba. But in Virginia, we had a UFO that crashed, and that we had 4 alien beings that was captured. 2 were captured alive, and 2 were dead. And well, we think that we had some kind of cooperation with the United States, because Virginia is not the biggest city. It's a medium city in Minas Gerais state. And a few days after the Virginia case happened, a huge airplane, a Buffalo airplane from United States, landed in the airport of Virginia. It's not a big airport as well. And people from NASA and United States government and militaries landed in Brazil. We don't know why. They said it was to sign a cooperation contract with the Brazilian government. But we know that some trucks, covered trucks, box trucks, had a way to the airport and put something on board that airplane. Now we know that what had in that boxes were the UFO and the parts of the UFO that crashed, and the alien beings as well. They was in an airplane, and then the airplane flew to United States. Well, we don't know if it's coincident, but sometime later, the United States gave to us a ticket to our first astronaut to go to the space. So we exchange a crashed UFO and alien beings for a ticket to ride in space.
Well, that seems very sensible, I suppose. Well, let's take our bottom of the hour break now. You're listening to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WOON 1240 AM and 99.5 FM in New England's, a lot chillier Blackstone River Valley than where our guest is. And we'll be right back with THIAGO and our amazing subject, the UFO situation in Brazil. So stick with us.
Lou Mandeville here to tell you the only place to get your local high school and college scores, as well as the Pats, Bruins, Celtics, and Sox is on my morning sports reports. And they are right here on ON 1240, Monday through Friday on the Morning Fun Show.
Are you tired of the same old dishing and depressing chatter in the morning radio? Then don't get down. Get up with me, Dave Richards, from 5 to 8 a.m. each weekday. On the Road with Joe, fun, the trivia quiz, and interesting stories, and your favorite tunes by your request. Don't get down. Get up with Dave. Weekday mornings only on ON, AM, and FM. Local and live at 99.5 FM.
And welcome back to Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno on WOON 1240 AM and 99.5 FM. And our guest today, THIAGO Luiz TICCHETTI, he was a well-known author and Brazilian UFO expert coming to us all the way from Brasilia today. And we are very happy to have him with us. Ben, you had a rather intriguing thought during the break?
I did, and the more that we're sort of talking about the phenomena of the UFO sort of incidents there, it's interesting how the behavior seems slightly different, and I'll sort of elaborate on that a little bit. At least in the United States, the sort of behavior of the phenomena, or how it sort of reacted to from, basic everyday people that have, close encounters, or they have abduction experiences, or even something like cattle mutilations, which you, THIAGO, said that there are no cattle mutilations, which is amazing to me. But they take soil samples, they take samples of plants, and they sort of care more for the natural resources, which is even more fascinating. Now, my question is this. When it comes to abductions, is there a difference in behavior? Do people have different experiences with it?
Well, no. The abductions is quite the same. We have many cases of aliens abduction here in Brazil, and they do the same. They do the same exams. For example, they put some implants. I have cases that they put some implants in people. They have an abduction that two cousins were abducted by the same time, at the same time. We have cases that, we have the Antônio Vilas Boas case. Was the first, it's not the first, okay, but was first than the Baton Barney Hill. Baton Barney Hill happened in 1965. If I'm not wrong,
61 actually.
Yeah, 61.
Right. And
Vilas Boas was abducted in 1957. So it was 4 years before Barney and Bethel. And just what we just get know about it years later. But Vilas Boas was an amazing case, the first that we know where a sexual between human and aliens happened in UFO history. But I think that abduction is the same, happened the same. It's a worldwide procedure, maybe done by the same alien beings, because here in Brazil, when we talk about aliens, abduction is the same person, is the same being, the grays with black eyes and no hair, gray skin, small, something like that.
Well, THIAGO, your psychic powers are at a height today, because I was just about to ask you, about the Villas-Boas case, and you already discussed it. So, predating the Betty and Barney Hill case, which happened not too far from where we are in New England here. Now, the question arises always on this show is defining what we're talking about. There are many opinions about what UFOs could be. The general assumption is that they are craft from other planets. But there are many other possibilities. There has been some discussion of them as craft from other times, or craft from, sort of multiverse or extra-dimensional, this sort of thing, or any combination thereof. There's even been some discussion that they could be living things that exist in the atmosphere or have arrived from somewhere, but nevertheless are living creatures of some kind. Sometimes what was generally assumed to be metal after UFO crashes has felt more like skin and this sort of thing. So what are your thoughts on what UFOs could be, or all of the above sort of possibilities? Could they be all these things depending on the case?
Well, I think what we have now is the theories. My theory is they are coming from other planets. They have the technology to travel across the space, but I'm not open-minded. I'm not closed-minded. I'm open-minded. That they could be from parallel universes, or they could be us from the future. And that's why they don't get in touch with us, because it's the same story of the Back to the Future film. If you change something in the past, the consequence will be in the future. So that would be a reason they don't want to get in touch with us. They don't want to land in the middle of the Central Park, or in the middle of the garden of the White House, or here in Brasilia.
All right, well, because that would depend on the nature of time, but who knows? What is the another issue that has come up is the many different kinds of craft and the many different kinds of aliens. Could there be more than one race? If these are aliens from other planets, could there be many different races? Some of whom may be at war with each other, or at least not, or at least who don't have the same policies. But what say you on that?
Yeah, as I said in the beginning of the show, I wrote 11 books about UFO. Two of these books, one of these books is about UFO typology, and another one's alien typology.
Yes.
Well, I made a research. The alien typology. I spent 5 years researching cases with description of the aliens, and I did the same about the UFO airships. Well, in aliens, I found 72 types of aliens.
72.
72. In all UFO literature, and I found 44 types of UFOs. So, if you think that we have been visited by different types, different races of aliens, yeah, we have 72 types, different types of aliens coming to Earth. If they use the same or different UFOs, I don't know. We still don't have how to speculate. Well, it is a speculation, but we don't know how to link UFO and his occupants. Of course, that we have some types of sightings that we can see. You can see the aliens and the UFO, and we can see the aliens inside UFO. One example is the Sagrada Familia case that's in my book as well, where the 4 kids got in touch with an alien with one eye, a cyclops, with one eye with almost 3 meters high. And the aliens came from the spherical UFO, translucent, transparent UFO, and they could see three other beings inside the UFO. So, in my opinion, we have been visited by more than 2, 3, 4 types of races, but the most curiosity is that they seems to came here and do the same, and the most important, all of them don't want to show up. None of this race landed and told, take me to your leader. None of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know why. I don't know the reason of that. But in my opinion, we have been visited by more than 10 and 12 types of races.
One of the things that arises with our work, Thiago, is that when I started out in the early 1970s, I was primarily concerned with ghost research, okay, poltergeist, things of this kind.
I love it. I love it as well.
Well, you should have been with me because you would have gotten an eyeful. But I kept, as time went on, I kept running into UFOs, oddly enough. And so today, Ben and I specialize in what we refer to as flap areas. John Keel would say window areas, where various types of phenomena that traditionally have not been related are actually related, in our opinion. So the question to you is, do you run into cases in Brazil where something that we run into all the time, Bigfoot, or whatever the Brazilian equivalent of Bigfoot might be, would be near UFO sightings, or the same people are seeing UFOs and a creature of that kind?
Yeah. As I said, Brazilian folklore has a lot of entities, let's say that. And we have many cases in Brazil where the people saw something we call boitatá. What's a boitatá? Is a snake made of light that came from another ball of light, bigger ball of light, and get the shape of a snake, but a glowing snake. And we also have the curupira. Curupira is a entity. It's not like the Bigfoot because it's not a hairy mammal. It's not a hairy entity, but has kind of savage behavior, and that it still saw with side by side of a UFO. So we have this kind of creepy creatures, and many people believe that they are devils or ghosts.
Yeah.
We have this confusion. People think that some of these beings could be a devil or could be a ghost, and the UFO should be a door from the beyond, something like that.
Well, we often find that people will put labels on things. They'll put names to things that may or may not, that come from our understanding and may or may not be what they really are. Okay. Let's take a moment for you to talk about your books, your website, and I know that you run many conferences in Brazil. Somebody is kind enough to send me that information. So tell us about where can people find out more, and go ahead.
Well, I have a website. I have a Facebook with all my lectures, all my books. When I publish a book, I put there. And on Facebook, just looking for Thiago TICCHETTI. You wrote my name's perfect, correct. It's amazing in a blog, in a site. And we can find my book, my English book. You can find it on Amazon.com.
Okay.
And well, it's a 500 page books with more than 300 of photos and drawings and illustrations that covers cases pre-1930s from in Brazil, 2015. So the readers gonna have the opportunity to learn a lot of the Brazilian ufology.
Okay, very good. Now, let's go back to some of the I believe you talk about this in the book. Is it Operation Prato?
Yeah.
What was that about?
Yeah, the plate operation is the same of Colares, the same thing of Colares. The plate operation is the name of the team from the Brazilian Air Force that was sent to investigate that case. Well, everything happened, officially happened in October of 1977, where people from several cities were afraid because they were being hit by beam of lights that came from strange aircrafts in the sky. Well, it doesn't matter if you are in a house, because this beam of light could break through the roofs and hit you. In the man, they hit in the shoulder, on the arms, and the woman a little above the breast. Well, when people got hit by this beam of light, the people got sick, dizzy, and very, very weak. And when they went to the hospital, the nurse and the doctor found that they had anemia. So this beam of light was sucking their blood, their cell blood.
Huh.
And officially, one person died because of that. It was officially, because we know that more than 10 people died because of that. And this happened in several cities of the north of Brazil. Colares was the most famous city, but the city was, the north of Brazil is so big. It's bigger than many countries in Europe together. The Amazon, the Brazilian Amazon state and Pará state, they are bigger than many countries on Europe. And the city was very far from each other. So this team from the Brazilian Air Force didn't go to all the cities, all the places. They focused in the bigger cities. It was Colares and Ilha do Sol, Sun Island, and people around and cities around of these cities. And they found that what was happened was real, because this team saw the UFOs. They saw alien beings. They filmed it. They took photos of that. And Holanda was the captain, the leader of this group. And once he was so close to alien being, close, like 10 meters away from the alien being, and they took all these photos, the films, and went to his commander and asked them, we are this close to get in touch with another race or another type of race. But for his surprise, his commander told him that the case was closed. All the operation must be terminated. And he questioned, why? His commander just said, we know what we have to know. And years later, after research, we found that when the Brazilians terminated the investigation, the United States started to investigate it. The United States Army and agents from CIA, FBI, came to Brazil, came to Pará State, and start and continue to investigate this case until 1982.
Wow.
4 more years of that.
So how often did the United States intervene in these various investigations?
Well, I think all the time. I think all the time, because the United States is very powerful nation, is the most powerful nation in the world. And I don't know, they have the cooperation contract, the cooperation, kind of cooperation with another allies in South America or in Africa. I don't know, but the Brazil was always a good ally of United States. We as you may know, during the Second World War, the Brazil gave a city to United States in Rio Grande do Norte states, the Mossoró city in Brazil, in Natal, the capital of Rio Grande do Norte, was full of militaries from United States. They made a base there to protect Brazil from the Germans, the Nazis. And since then, we have this close allies with the United States. So I think the United States know what happens in the skies everywhere. And having Brazil as ally, they can come here and make some exchanges. Let's say that.
The question arises too, what, in your opinion, Thiago, is the agenda? What is the reason that if these are alien beings, what do they want here, and what are they doing, particularly with abductions, and searching for resources?
Yeah, this is a $1 million question, right?
Yes.
Well, I don't know. In my research, I can tell you that some types, some races come here to get research from our environment. Another types want to get abduction to study us, to control us, or monitoring our development. But I think it is my opinion, only my opinion, that they are here to watch us, like red labs. It's a strong word, but I think that we are red labs for them. I think in the past is just like aliens from the past, site aliens, that from some reason they create the shape we are today. This is my opinion.
Well,
and now they're observing us to see how we move away. But there's another race with another objectives here, another agendas that we don't know yet.
You just brought up something that I hoped we had time to discuss, and we won't in any detail, but the idea that we were, perhaps our ancestors or our DNA was manipulated by someone or something in the remote past. And it's funny, Ben, I was thinking on the way over here today, people's interest in gold. Now, Zecharia Sitchin, who was a great author, since passed, but is a great author on speculating about the origins of the human race, said that gold was one of the resources that the alien races were interested in, and manipulated our DNA so that we would mine it for them and also be very interested in gold, know where to find it, and this sort of thing. Now, this is a bit of a stretch, perhaps. But, John,
yeah.
what do you think of that sort of idea that we were created perhaps at least as a worker race in the remote past and this sort of thing? I mean, there is some evidence for that.
Yeah, this is a theory of the Anunnakis, right?
Yes.
The Anunnakis came to Earth and then manipulate our DNA to create workers for them to dig gold. But in some time we got a rebel and we stopped it to be their workers. Well, ufology is so strange, and ghost phenomenon is so strange as well that I don't doubt anything, because we don't have sure of anything as well. We cannot just deny any type of theory or idea being the most ridiculous or not, we cannot deny it. We have to keep open-minded because we don't know the truth. We just can't deny something if we know the truth, and we still don't know it.
You're right.
So I think this theory it's okay. Could be. It's not so nuts.
That's about all we can say. Well, we're almost out of time, but Thiago, tell us what are you working on? What is your next achievement?
Well, now I'm working in my new book. That's gonna be the aliens during the wars that we have in Earth, like Korea War, Vietnam, First War, Second War. I'm digging documents and information, trying to look about that in English, in Portuguese. And perhaps next year I will be developing 2 of these UFO contacts in Brazil from 2015 to 2021 or 20, or just updating this book. And I'm still I'm also investigate of possible abduction here in Brasilia.
Very good. Well, I'm sure that your publisher will keep us posted, and we'll have you back. And give us your website one more time, please.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube, THIAGO TICCHETTI. Just looking for THIAGO TICCHETTI, and on Facebook as well, THIAGO TICCHETTI, UFO Research, TICCHETTI UFO Research. You will find all my books and all information of my work.
Very good. Well, we promise to do better on pronouncing your last name next time you're on.
Yes.
And thank you so very much.
Good pronouncing my name.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and good luck. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you.
Okay. So let's move on to our announcements. Ben, if you would take it away.
I will do the best I can. So, starting off, boopy-doopy-doo. Here we are. So we will be at the this coming Saturday, that's February 15th, from 1 to 4 p.m., my dad and I will make our appearance at the 5th Annual Book Lovers Gourmet Authors Expo at the Cumberland Public Library. That's 1464 Diamond Hill Road, Cumberland, Rhode Island. We won't give a lecture, but we and a number of other authors will be there with our books, and it's a whole lot of fun.
On April 3rd, 4th, and 5th, not that far away, we'll be at the New England Parafest in Kittery, Maine. The first 2 days of the event, Friday and Saturday, will be at the Community Center at 120 Rogers Road. For Sunday the 5th, we move to the Alliance Club at 117 State Road for the rest of the event, which will include a live broadcast of this show between noon and 1 p.m. All proceeds from this event go to help support the historic Hilldale Cemetery in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and toward the upkeep of veterans' gravesites there. Along with ourselves, speakers, almost all of whom you have heard on this show, will include Bill Brock of the Discovery Channel's Monsters Underground, paranormal investigator Shane Searway, ancient sites expert Dennis Stone, Bigfoot hunter Dave McCulloch, reincarnation researcher Stephen Stacklarius, researcher and broadcaster Tim Weisberg, who is now the host of the hit nighttime show Midnight in the Desert, founded by Art Bell, and many more. Order tickets at EssexCountyGhostProject.org.
And so naturally, we'll be back at the Exeter UFO Festival on Labor Day weekend. That's September 5th and 6th as speakers, and we will do our 5th annual live broadcast from the historic Exeter Town Hall on Sunday the 6th at noon. And the event is sponsored by the Exeter Area Kiwanis Club to raise funds for local children's charities.
So what do we have coming up next week, Ben?
Alrighty, so next week we have, that is on February 16th, there will be open lines with our special guest co-host, Shane Searway, back in his seat to help us handle a stack of questions from many listeners on many, many, many paranormal subjects.
Yes, it'll be a very interesting show. So we'll leave you this afternoon with a thought-provoking quote from none other than Murray Silver, who was last week's guest. This is a little different. The sun don't shine on the same dog's tail all the time. Either the sun moves or the dog moves. You have to think a little bit about that one, but that's rather profound. So anyway, I'm Paul Eno.
And I'm Ben Eno, and thanks for joining us on our great cosmic journey, and we shall see you next time on Behind the Paranormal.
Return to this radio frequency 167 hours from now for another edition of Behind the Paranormal with Paul and Ben Eno.